This week on Dumb Pitches, my guest is Sam Miller, and we go from one of the most well thought out pitches we've had. It's very stupid. It's called Spaghetti. To a very personal story about why meth is a bad idea. It's a great episode. Here we go. Dumb Pitches.
What a bunch of dumb pitches. Oh my goodness.
Welcome to another episode of Dumb Pitches with Monica Nevi. I'm Monica Nevi, your host. This is the show where we talk to successful people about their worst ideas. Very excited for our guest this week. Sam Miller is here. Hello, Sam.
Hey, it's good to see you, Monica.
Great to see you. Thanks for doing it. I'm glad we can make this work. I'm excited for it. We like to start the show by introducing you and maybe, your credits, your good ideas, so everybody doesn't think you've only had really bad ideas. So Sam Miller, hilarious stand-up comedian. You tour all over the country. You had your first special come out last year. Is that right?
It was October. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. What's the title of it again?
It's called Round Trip.
Round Trip. Beautiful. Let's see. You were just named an undisputable genius of comedy.
Yeah, and then I got COVID and I couldn't do the show.
Yeah.
That was a bummer.
It was a bummer, but
I had
it
an
was a
undisputable case of COVID.
That was the problem.
Yeah, it was really hard. I was going to try to tough it out, and I was like, I think I'm fine. And then, I wasn't good at all.
Yeah. Well, and there was a lot of susceptible people in that audience.
Oh, yeah. I did the right thing. And what's weird is I tested negative the whole time, but then my wife
really
tested positive. She had the same symptoms, and also I lost my sense of taste and smell.
That is an indicator.
Yeah, and my smell goes off and on now. It's the
Really?
weirdest thing. Sometimes it's been more on lately, which is kind of weird because I think that I've been walking around and I've been I think I smell bad. But
you can't notice.
Yeah, and every once in a while, my smell will go on, and I'll be like, "Oh God, I need to take a shower."
Has this been like this the whole time? Oh God.
I get stressed out, and I forget. I'm not a dirty fella, but I get stressed out, and I'm like, "Oh, I'll take a shower tomorrow," and then I say the same thing the next day, and it's like, "Oh man," and then I get smelly. But,
yeah, well, I mean, traveling all the time, I do that too. Where I'll take a little
it's kind of
break.
gross,
I don't want to wash my hair every day. Anyway, you also have a podcast called The Tarp Report.
Yep, with Jess Anderson.
Yeah,
everyone's favorite figure in comedy. I love Jess. She's a lightning rod, though. So.
Yeah, there you go. So you look at you. You're busy. You're doing stuff. You're funny. You got good stuff going on, you know? But that's not
as well as I do, though, the margins are slim. I am successful.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Only I consider being a successful comedian at my level, making enough money just to kind of keep going.
Mm-hmm. And it is, I mean, I think people think that too. Not maybe normal people, non-coms, but comedians are like, oh, you can only do comedy? That's pretty good. I try to remember that when I'm feeling overwhelmed.
I think people see my online following and they assume that it's better than it is. And it is good. You know what cracks me up too is that I get messages from fans. They're like, I don't know if Sam will ever see this, but if you could tell Sam that I like his comedy, that would be awesome. And I'll just be on the toilet reading it. I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I'll let him know.
That happens too. I'll respond to people and they'll be like, you respond to your own thing. I'm like, thank you so much for thinking I'm at a point where I wish I wasn't talking to you right now. Yeah, but no, I'm right here. Accessible.
That makes me think that probably me and you are both on the right track. So
I hope so. Mm-hmm. Or at least the 7 people that are messaging us think we're pretty cool people. Yeah, but that's not what we're here to talk about, okay? We don't want to hear about you now that you feel good about yourself. We want to hear about your bad ideas. So when I sent you the the criteria. What'd you come up with? What do you got for us?
What do you think I should do? You think I should do real life bad idea that I know is bad, or a idea for a product
I
that
will
I
say,
have?
based on what the audience normally likes, I would say start with the product and end with the personal story.
Start with the product.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So in 2018, you and me both work on the road and all the trappings of a mobile life.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them is like the food sucks. I get so tired of fast food. We all do. This is me
Yeah.
trying to sell it now. We all get tired
You
of
guys
fast
know,
food.
right?
Listen, you on the road, have I got a product for you?
Yeah.
I try to eat healthier on the road, so I go to like what's cool is like truck stops have like a lot more like fresh fruit and stuff like that than they used to,
Mm-hmm.
and I get those, and I get like hard boiled eggs. And then it'll be late at night, and I'll be like, I need to be healthy, and then I'll get like Red Bull and hard boiled eggs, and I'll be driving over a mountain pass, and I'll eat the eggs too fast, and they'll get stuck in my throat, and I'll take a big swig of Red Bull, and then I'll vomit.
You guys know.
Life on the
road
road.
life. Yeah.
Yeah. I was with Sam Ellefson when I did that too.
That's crazy.
And it's funny because I'm always like, I'm sober now. My life's a lot better, and I'm living a good life. And but yeah. So I had this idea, right?
Okay.
Because so noodles, right? They are pre-cooked basically, and then they form them into strips. Like they can mold them, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is my idea. It's called spoolgetti, okay? Like spaghetti, but on a spool, right?
Okay.
And so what you have is you have like the spool of noodles, okay? And it's just one big long noodle all on the same spool. And it's like fishing line, you know? You can have it as long as, depending on the size of the spool, you can have it, right? And it comes in like a packet, right?
Okay.
And what you do is you have a thing, and you can have it hooked up to your cigarette lighter in your car, okay?
Okay.
And what you do is you put water in it, and then you hit a button. It's like a Keurig, right?
Okay.
I base this on already successful products.
You just combined them together.
Yeah.
Noodles, very successful. Keurig,
Spools.
also successful. Spools, killing it.
People love spools.
People love spools.
So, and by the way, I want to say this, okay? And I know that you're going to think this is a bit, and nobody's going to believe me. I think this thing might have legs. I mean it. Like, there might be, like, I think it could work. I don't think. Another thing is that, like, the way my brain works, like, I'm like, oh, here's a joke. Like, I come up with jokes all the time, but I rarely come up with products. So,
this has lasted the test of time here, 2018.
Yeah,
you know?
2018. And it's the only one I can think of. And honestly, when you said, like, the thesis of your podcast, probably not thesis isn't the right word, the theme of your podcast.
Yeah, sure.
Is this pitch. And I'm like, this is the only product I have.
It's
great.
The
only one I came up with. And I actually think that it's so good that it's taking up all the product space in my head. So
right. You're like, I really got to execute this or else I'm not going to let it go. Okay, so you plug it into the cigarette lighter.
Which heats up the water. So what you do is you have a spool and it's in a packet, okay? Like a like a Keurig kind of, right? And what you do is you take off the top halfway like you would a cup of noodle.
Okay.
You can put water in there, okay? And it can be cold water. Okay? And it doesn't matter because then you put it into the included like receptacle, like the Keurig thing kind of.
Mm-hmm.
And that heats up the water, okay? And it cooks the spaghetti on the spool. And the spool can get cooked because it's made out of special plastic. Because they have plastic that, like silicone or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the spool's getting cooked, but it doesn't matter. You know, it's allowed to get cooked.
Got it. Okay.
And it's not going to hurt you. It's made out of like plastic. It's not like the microplastics that kills everybody.
It's macroplastics here.
Only. Yeah, macroplastic. Thank you.
Yeah.
And then the noodles on the spool, right? And so it's done heating up. So you remove it from the base that plugs into the cigarette lighter to heat up the thing, right? And then what you have, oh, and by the way, this is the best part, right? So those packets, they come in different flavors, and there's like dry seasoning in them. So
Okay.
you could have like chicken, or like traditional spaghetti, you know.
Okay.
I haven't figured out the meatball part. Actually just thought about meatballs now.
Okay.
Don't know what to do about that. But like you could have like a Asian, like a soy. There's all kinds of options, right? And so when you put the water in there, the flavor is cooking into the noodles, okay?
Okay.
And then so you have your packet with your flavor, the noodles on a spoon. Remember, it's one big long noodle, right? And then what you have, and this all comes together in a package. Do you know when like Neil Young or Bob Dylan play the harmonica, and they have that thing that holds the harmonica? So this is what happens is right here, it's like one of those harmonica things, and you put your noodle packet into that, right?
Okay.
Now this is why it's important that it's one big long noodle, right? It's basically you just put the end in your mouth, it's sitting there, and you can just suck and drive on the noodle.
Hands free.
And it's just oh, it's one long noodle.
Why? Just suck and drive.
Yeah, and I have I showed you this right before we started.
So then it's just spinning around until he runs out.
And what's cool is that once you have the noodle holder, and you have the thing that heats it up, then you can just buy the packets,
I see, and then you just put them in.
And then different spools, and it's I don't know. I don't know. I want it to be a good idea, but sometimes I think about all the different parts, and I'm like, I don't know.
Stressed all of a sudden. It's well, and then I was thinking, you did mention eating healthy, so would there maybe expand into some like veggie option, like a zoodle or something? I mean,
you can make the noodles out of whatever you want.
Okay.
You can have like vegan. I don't know. Like
you're like, I don't know other noodles.
Yeah,
I've had chickpea pasta before.
Sure.
It's supposed to be more protein based,
Sure. And I think I'd want to start with just traditional noodles. And then work my way up to that. I do have a drawing that I made back in 2018. It's crazy that this has been 6 years I've been sitting on this.
Yeah, look at you, coming prepared with visuals.
Yeah, and here we go. I'm gonna put my screen on. It's just a Facebook post.
Okay, but you did post this on Facebook.
Yeah.
Oh, I also appreciate someone who has a name for it. So Spoolgetty is great, I think.
Yeah, Spoolgetty. Yeah. And you see how you can see how it all works. And also the whole thing fits in your cup holder.
Got it. Right? Okay.
Until you get the spool and you put it in the holder. And I actually wrote a thing.
Finger in the picture.
Yeah. Yeah. And also I think that's like the back of some parking thing or something. So I go, are you tired of not being able to eat spaghetti in the car? Are you frustrated that the only foods that are acceptable to eat while driving are mostly burgers and tacos? What a bummer. That's why I'm proud to introduce Spoolgetty. It incorporates the fun and nutrition of spaghetti with the performance and convenience of a spool. It's one long noodle. It's
the slogan. It's one long noodle.
It's one long noodle. Let's face it. Eating traditional spaghetti in a car is asking for trouble. You have to hold a fork and a plate? Ridiculous. What are you supposed to steer with? Your foot? This is because traditional spaghetti is too many individual noodles. Sure, while you're slurping, you can look at the road, but then what? You just have to look back down at the bowl to fork another noodle up there, and while your eyes are off the road, boom, you just hit a little kid with your Kia. Now with Spoolgetty, it's all slurp, no fork. Essentially what Spoolgetty is one very long noodle wrapped around a spool that mounts in your cup holder. Inside the cup is a heating element to boil water that uses your car's own power. All you need to do is insert pre-rolled spaghetti spool in the canister, add water, and plug it in. 7 to 10 minutes later, you have an al dente noodle ready to be enjoyed on the go. Just place the loose end in your mouth and suck. The spaghetti unrolls off the spool, past your lips, and down your gullet. You finally have on-the-go nutrition. Take that, big burger. So what do you think? Should I try to make a prototype?
How was that received? I mean, well written. I'll put that out there, anyways. Regardless
Thank
of
you.
the really, the enthusiasm is palpable.
Yeah.
You did post that on. You did put it out there.
Well, this is back before I had like the huge following that I have now, and it got 34 likes.
Pretty good.
Comments. A lot of the comments were really kind of insulting.
Sounds like most comment sections, but yeah.
Yeah.
They may, people aren't ready for what's next. When you're ahead of the curve, it sounds ridiculous, but eventually everybody's going to be spool getting.
It's like the guy that came up with libraries, And
Yeah.
like, that's a bad idea.
One place for books. That's
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get out of here. So that is my pitch. So.
Spaghetti, get in on the investment floor here,
Yeah. Go ahead.
The beautiful part to me has been the way you're honoring the spool. I think you really are drawing attention back to something that is very effective and convenient, and maybe isn't getting the attention it deserves anymore. So
no, people forget about the spool until you have something long that can bend and you need to store it. Then
until you're flying a kite or something.
Spool? Where's the spool? Too late.
I do also appreciate the convenience, because when you first said it, I was imagining, we have a kite that has one that really gets going. I was imagining you would hold it at least at one end, and then, so you'd have to have one hand free, but not two,
No.
But you really ahead of the game here with I don't know what you're calling it, but, the attachment there.
It's honestly two separate groundbreaking inventions. Both noodles on a spool and a holder for the spool.
Yeah.
And the packets too, which I did draw inspiration from Keurig.
Mm-hmm.
And the coffee
because they have kind of that
coffee pods
foil top thing.
Yeah. Oh my God. You know what? I just realized this right now.
Oh.
Okay, because you know how it's like spaghetti and it's in a pod.
Mm-hmm.
You can call them podstas.
Oh,
like
that's great.
PODSTA. You can have different podstas.
You're gonna put your podsta in on for your spaghetti. This is good. Everyone loves. I mean,
instead of marinara, we can call it carinara.
Oh, okay. Sounds like just stuff you found in the cracks of the seat or something, but.
Oh my God. I just laughed so hard that I got lightheaded. So that was good.
That's good. That's great. Oh, I can't wait for this comment section. It's going to be just different things you can name the flavors and stuff. It'll be great. Spaghetti. I mean, honestly, I get it. It's silly, but I'm, my next trip, I'm going to be thinking like, I really wish I had spaghetti right now.
This is the thing. Okay. We've made a lot of jokes and stuff, but like, it's not, I don't know. People don't want to eat it while they're driving. It's just like, you shouldn't eat while you're driving anyway. So.
Yeah. But when you're driving for 8 hours or whatever, what are you supposed to do? Not eat?
I know. It's wild.
Yeah.
Like to think. And the other thing that I need to figure out,
seems like people are going to do it anyway. So this would be a safer version because you have two hands.
The question, here's a question that I don't have an answer to. So the spaghetti's on a spool, right? And you're like slurping it. Now, can you like stop the noodle and hold it while you chew and eat and like hold the noodle? And once you swallow, then you slurp in more spaghetti.
I do think that would depend on the person's dexterity. Mm-hmm. I think it's doable, but there might be some biting off and then having to reinsert when you're ready. which is still taking less
Ooh.
time or less distraction than if you were using a fork and plate.
I just
But
got
is,
another addition, right?
okay.
So on the noodle holder, right, that holds the spool, what you have is kind of like a little rod that comes up, and it
Okay.
has like a spaghetti ratchet. And so you can
Mm.
bite it
Oh, so it
off,
kind of holds it there, and then you could reach it again.
and you could be like, num num num. That was man. And then you go, oh, back to slurping. You know, you're right back on the train. You know what I mean?
That's great. I mean, I'm assuming it's going to really flourish into these different, you'd have more of like a fancier or like a basic holder versus maybe a
Mm-hmm.
more advanced, fancy long haul
And
holder.
it'll all be recyclable.
Oh, nice. You're like, don't know how, but it will be. Macroplastics. That's
Yeah,
how.
yeah. You could
Oh my.
no, you can't reuse them. You could do like the old like back in the day, like the Coca-Cola bottles, and
Oh,
send the
okay, yeah.
spools back.
There you go. And then
Use the
wait,
spools.
somebody does that. What are the Nespresso? You can mail back your pods when they're done to be recycled and reused or whatever.
That's nice of you.
So you could do that. You could just collect them in the back of the car.
Yeah.
Go to the post office, mail your podstas.
Your podstas.
Yeah, your empty podstas.
Thank you for using the correct terminology.
I'm learning, but I'm trying. I think you're onto something. I'm excited to see the comment section. Who would use the spaghetti? I think you'd find it'd be hard to find somebody who wouldn't be interested. But
I don't know how many of these you've done, but I'm curious as to how it stacks up against other comedians' inventions.
yeah, so I will tell you. Well, we've done 139 or whatever, but at the end of every year, we do what's called the Dummies, which is an awards show for the dumb pitches. And there's categories based on, products, inventions, personal decisions, whatever. And so I would assume you're definitely allowed to be nominated now, but I would assume you'd be in the running here with the spaghetti for a nomination. Cool. It's up to, it's all audience based. It's up to them, but I think you got a good shot.
I would say to the audience of Dumb Pitches that I think you should take into account my history and my story, and how I came from nothing. And,
well, do you want? Then maybe this is a good transition into your other story you were going to tell us.
Yeah, a dumb idea.
Yeah.
yeah. Meth.
Oh God.
Yeah. I've been sober 16 years. Monica knows. We've talked about it. It's a big part of my comedy. It's a big part of who I am. And I love being in recovery. I take it really seriously, but I make a lot of jokes about it too. A lot of my fans are also in recovery, which absolutely rules. I think I have the best fans in the world because a lot of my fans, just like me, are miracles. Yeah, bad idea. I had a lot of bad ideas. There's a story. I tell this story a lot, but I don't mind. I think it's interesting. So, one of the worst ideas I had while I was out drinking and getting high, I went home with a girl. I don't know if I've ever told you this story personally, Monica, but there's a old school hustle. It's called a bait and switch, basically. And for as long as there's been idiot men like me drinking, there have been women more than happy to rob them, basically. And so,
okay.
I was at a bar, and this is going to get really nasty for a second.
That's okay.
A bar in Republic, Washington. I was working for the Forest Service. My friend Daryl was in the corner talking to this girl, and I looked over, and Daryl was like, "Hey, you got to feel this. You're not going to believe it." And I looked over, and the girl was sucking on Daryl's finger, and I was like, "That's wild." And he goes, "Dude, Sam, check this out." And he was like, "She's got like a tooth on the roof of her mouth," and she had like an extra tooth on the roof of her mouth. She grabbed my finger, started sucking on my finger. I felt the tooth, and I was like, "This girl's crazy. This is fun. Whatever." Daryl left. I think he went to go smoke a cigarette or something. I started talking to her, and like, uh, roof tooth or not, we wound up kind of hitting it off, and
Okay.
we were
Roof tooth.
talking, and I don't know. We started talking. I'm serious. Like I'm nothing if not like a bit of a romantic. Even back then, like I'm very, you know how I am. I'm like I'm really personable and like I'm in like a long term committed relationship, but I love romance and like I don't know. I'm just that guy. You know, I fall in love real easy. And
Mhm.
man, me and this girl hit it off, and I was like, man, like I'm saying the right things, she's saying the right things, and like it's getting late, and like I'm like I think it's going down, you know, and sure enough, she was like, "Hey, what are you doing tonight?" And I was like, "Oh, hopefully I'm hanging out with you. You know, you're amazing." And she was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Let's go back to my place." And she had a car out behind the bar, and I hopped in her car, and we um, drove off to the reservation. She was a native gal, um, and yeah, it went it went really. I was like I. Here's the thing too, Monica, is like I was kind of like blacked out, like not all the
Mm.
way though. Like I was kind of coming in and out. I knew I was on the reservation just because the way we were like on the other side of town. It's like it's all reservation, you know. Like I knew where we were headed, but I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, she's a native gal. It makes sense, you know. And there is a thing, especially at night, if you're like a white dude, like you know what this country is built on. A lot of times is like crushing and sad, you know what.
Mhm.
And there is a way to handle yourself when you're on a reservation like that. That's not your space, and I've always been respectful, and I was like, hey, you know, like she's into me, we're hanging out. I knew that it was not the safest thing to do that night, to
Mhm.
especially because I didn't know her that well. Sure enough, we wind up out at this trailer out in the middle of nowhere, and she just said, she goes, hey, um, I'll be right back, I gotta go grab something. And she went into this trailer, and two big native dudes with shotguns came out of the trailer. And
Ooh.
I got out of the car. They said, like, what do you got? And I was like, man, all I got is I had $37. I didn't even have a wallet. All I had was like some cash in my pocket.
Just
That was
loose
it. I had
cash.
no phone. Yeah, I had no phone, no wallet. I was out of it. I gave them my $37, and they said turn around, and I thought that was it. I thought that was it. I thought they were going to kill me. And this is where it gets like really heavy. This is like the opposite of the fun we were having with spaghetti.
Spaghetti, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Remember that? Remember those
Remember those
days?
spaghetti times?
Yeah, those were the nice times. But yeah, and this is the saddest part of the story for me is I remember kind of looking up at the stars, and I knew that that was probably it. And I wanted to die every day, and the only reason I didn't kill myself is I didn't want to hurt my mom's feelings, and that was like the end of my drinking. That's pretty much what it was like. Because every day I just wanted to die, and then, but like I said, I wasn't going to kill myself because I didn't want to hurt my mom. And so in those guys, I was like, well, I guess I'm going to get killed. And I wasn't like I didn't want it, but I also wasn't tripping. I
You
was
weren't
like,
like
all
fighting
right,
it kind of thing? Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
And I was like, this is it. And then they were like, walk. They just said walk. And I remember I walked down that driveway, and I got back to the highway. I knew I needed to take a right. Um, I knew I was going the right way because the river's on one side of the highway, and I just started walking down the highway. And this was opening day of hunting season, so I think it was in like early October or something like that. I can't remember.
So it's
I might
cold then.
I might be wrong. Yeah, and I was wearing basketball shorts and a t-shirt, and I started walking down a highway where there's no cars.
Oh my god.
I was drunk. I was sobering up very quickly, and I got colder than I've ever been in my life. And it started at my hands. At first, it was tingly, and then they felt hot, and then I couldn't feel them at all. I was trying to tuck them into my body. Um, I was trying everything to stay warm. I knew if I stopped moving, I was toast. Um, I started hallucinating. I realized that like I had enough sense to be like, wow, like I'm hypothermic or whatever. And yeah, uh, I could see the sun coming up. It was probably 5 or 6 in the morning. I could see but there was such big mountains. It's like Republic, and I knew the sky was getting brighter. Um, but because the hills were so high on the mountains were so high on each side of the highway, I couldn't get the sunlight actually on me. And then eventually I hit a spot where the sun came up enough and there was like a dip in the mountains to where the sunlight was on the road. Because I could see the sunlight coming down the hillside on the other side of
Mm-hmm.
the. Anyway, eventually I got to where the sunlight was on me and I curled up in a ball in the ditch and I just laid there. And I remember like I was falling asleep, but before I fell asleep, I realized that I was getting warmer faster than I was getting colder. Like I was still cold,
Mm-hmm.
but I wasn't as cold as I was, and that sunlight made all the difference. And eventually I heard a car and I jumped up and like waved and stuck my thumb up and waved again. And the guy was like, "Are you lost?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he goes, I was like, "Can I get a ride back to Republic?" And he was like, "Yeah." He's like, "I saw you lying in that ditch. I figured you could use a ride." And then I went back to Republic, Washington. It was probably 6:30 in the morning. I went to the Forest Service bunkhouse. I was a wildland firefighter back at this time too.
Mm-hmm.
I went to that Forest Service bunkhouse, and there was Daryl, the guy I was drinking with the night before, who initially had his finger in that lady's mouth.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like, "Dude, I can't believe you. Like, how'd it go with that girl last night?" And I was like, it didn't really work out, man. And I didn't tell anybody about this. I didn't really remember this until I was a couple years sober, and I didn't tell anybody about it until I was about 5 years sober.
Dang.
Yeah, and it's like one of those memories that just kind of came back to me. There's a few of those that are rough, but yeah, that's one of the worst decisions I've ever made. There's actually one that's worse than that. That's not appropriate to talk about on the
Okay.
podcast. A couple. So
I mean, I, it was funny when we said your bad idea was meth, but I mean, in reality, the base for all the symptoms were the using, right? Because here, really, you're talking to a girl, you know. That's not. I mean, sometimes that's a good choice,
yeah,
you know, or whatever. I don't know. I've never met anyone with a roof tooth, but maybe just this one was the one
yeah. This isn't
that ends
an
up being a bad
indictment.
idea. Yeah.
Yeah, of everyone with a roof tooth. No, Monica, you know me well enough. Like I make mistakes. I try to take accountability as much as I can, and I want to grow, and I want to keep trying to be as good of a person as I can, and like account for when I'm messing up. Um, and one of the reasons why is that like there's this wind that blows me in how I live my life, and to turn back and go against it is to risk having to experience things like that again. Like
How much longer after that until you got sober? That
about a
story.
year and a half after that.
Okay.
Yeah, about a year and a half after that. So that was October. Let me think, do the math. I think that was October of 2006. I got sober in June of 2008.
Okay. Yeah.
I might be off on that timeline a little bit.
I mean, some of
Um,
those things, obviously, it's terrible. And I know
yeah,
some of your other stories were a catalyst, though, for you to eventually get sober. Not that you need something horrible to happen to go, oh, I should probably get sober. But if you were just more functional and not ending up almost hypothermic, it doesn't make you question it as much, even though the use itself is past
yeah.
appropriate. I
I
don't know.
don't know. I don't know what the recipe is for any individual to choose to like go after recovery. But
Mm-hmm.
that's kind of the thing with me is it wasn't enough for me just to be like, Sam, don't drink. Like that just doesn't
Yeah.
work for me. I'm either all the way in recovery and like trying to like actively work on myself, or I'm coasting. And they say you can only coast downhill, and that's
Yeah.
kind of what it is for me. Because I have to watch out. I mean, me in comedy, like especially early on, like I burnt some bridges right out the gate because I don't. I'm not going to go into specifics, but like I didn't understand like how this worked. I was chaos embodied, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of
Oh,
it is because like I've never been in an arena where people like where it matters. Like I've
yeah.
never, you know, it's weird when you don't. I used to do this thing like I felt like I was a piece of shit. I acted like I was a piece of shit. If somebody told me that I was a piece of shit, I'd want to fight them. You know, that's not a good way to live.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
confusing, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. I always talk about that, like that golf. So that's like I'm talking about ego and like self esteem, right? And
Mm-hmm.
what's cool is that as I've progressed in my recovery, my ego has gone down and my self esteem has gone up. Because in this area, if your self esteem is really low and your ego is really high, that's like the zone of conflict, you know? So if I can like make my ego better and raise my self esteem,
Mm. You
there's
narrow the
less
zone of conflict.
room. Yeah, and it
Yeah.
makes for a better life where I get to have cool friends. And
Yeah.
I've been married 12 years. I have a wonderful marriage. I have a great relationship with my mom.
Yeah.
I hear from Roof Tooth every now and then. She's doing good.
She checks in.
Yeah, she checks in. She calls me. She got the tooth removed.
What'd
Which
she
bummed
do
me
with the
out.
$37? That's what I want.
Huh?
I said, what'd
What
she do with
can't
the
you do with
$37?
$37? God, I wish I had $37.
Yeah, back then, in Republic, that would be.
Times are tight. No,
Anyways.
right now. Right now. May's
It's
been
true.
slow.
Oh, man. Oh, my gosh. That was great. Okay. Thank you so much for being on the show. Will you tell everyone where they can follow you, where they can find you? This will come out not this Friday, but next Friday. If you want to plug dates or anything.
Yeah, Sam Miller Comedy on Facebook. Sam Miller Comedian on Instagram and TikTok. SamMillerComedy.com. /Ticks if you want. Has all my upcoming dates. Yeah. Much like you, Monica, I stay busy. You know, I got a lot of stuff coming up.
Yeah, we do stay busy. That's good. And then, yeah, follow Sam. Go see him. It's a great show. I'm sure he'll tell you even more stories.
Yeah,
If you
yeah,
go
yeah,
see him
yeah.
live.
Yeah.
And you can follow us and rate and review and subscribe and all that stuff. And my dates are MonicaNeviComedy.com. Come see me in the Northwest this summer or all over this fall. All right. But right now, you can just keep watching Dumb Pitches.
You're weird.
Yes. Dumb Pitches was created and hosted by me, Monica Nevi. Recorded with Nast Studios in Seattle, Washington, and produced by Blake Burton of Nast Studios. Theme music by Michael Evans. Paid for by Nevi Ending Productions, which is just me. So please rate, review, and subscribe wherever you are listening. Join YouTube memberships now if you really want to help. youtube.com/MonicaNevi/join.